If you're watching this video, you're probably a little bit resentful. Why aren't you included in these groups of friends, and why don't you have the friends that they have? And why don't you have the wonderful romantic stories that they have? And you kind of sit in this victim mindset, why aren't you included? Are you not good enough, and that's why you're not invited into their conversations and not invited out as much as other people and not as popular as other people? What you're lacking is the willingness to show interest in other people. You are too afraid and you lack the courage to show interest first and to include yourself first. Instead, you start to get pissed off that nobody really includes you. You want people to go out of their way and come up to you and invite you in. But that's just not going to happen if you have never shown any interest yourself, or if you aren't incredibly competent. But even if you become incredibly competent, you become super rich, famous, and good at everything, people will invite you into things, but they will never have that genuine connection with you if you never showed any interest. So even if you do have opportunity, if you don't have the willingness and the ability to risk rejection and to show interest, you're not going to make the relationships you want. You're not going to become as admired and respected as you want to be. A few years ago in secondary school, at this point I was about 14 years old, and I still remember I would sit at the corner of the classroom, at the side of the classroom with this one friend, and we would look at a big group of people gathered together during class discussions, and we would criticize them, saying that they have superficial relationships. Their relationship isn't as genuine as ours. These people don't actually care about each other, they're all pretending. And these guys and girls on the other side of the class have never done anything malicious to us except not include us and not talk to us. And I think me and the other guy, we subconsciously knew that. We knew that we were somewhat ostracized, but we wanted to cope with it in some way. I was lucky that I even had him, because without him I wouldn't have a single person. And during this period, I was incredibly resentful and cynical. I was pissed off at other people. I wondered why being the nice guy didn't get me all the girls, all the attraction, all the friends. I wondered why I was so selfless, so altruistic. I always gave way to other people. I was always considerate. I always excluded myself so that they had the opportunity to get the things they want. And I was pissed off. I was like, hey, I do all these things for people, but they don't care. Girls don't care if you're nice. These guys are all shallow, superficial, and arrogant and assholes, and that's why they aren't friends with me. Fast forward to when I was around 17 years old or 18 years old. I started meditating and journaling. I started to get pissed off that I lacked so much opportunity growing up, and I took it seriously. I wanted to make friends. I wanted to become more admired. I was honest with myself now. I wanted to become someone who is attractive, who could speak to girls, who could be admired and respected just like they were. And I wanted it so bad. I wanted to prove that I deserve love. At that point in time, I was showing up to the gym 6 times a week. I was doing intermittent fasting every single day. I was reducing my doom scrolling time to a very minimal amount. I wasn't playing video games anymore. And I was meditating and journaling every single day. And every single day I would go out there and do something deliberate to face my fear, just because I was afraid of it. I would, for example, if I see someone over there and a small part of me wanted to start a conversation with him or her, and I feel that fear, I would have the mindset that, that fear is something that I have to conquer, and that's why I have to speak to them now. It's an unnegotiable thing that I have to go and speak to them now. So I did this every single day. And of course, I was still a very, very fearful guy. I would shake physically when I would face my fears like that. And of course, I wasn't facing humongous fears. I was doing what I could. I was facing my fears to the extent that I could handle. And by deliberately facing my fears, what I was actually doing is also showing interest in people that I genuinely was interested in. And because I had such a high volume of doing that, as I was taking it deliberately every single day, I still remember there were terrible awkward moments, because what I was doing was just habitually looking for things that I'm afraid of and trying to do them. So of course, there were some times that I risked doing really stupid things. Like, for example, there were these 2 girls that were speaking to each other right in front of me, and I was close to one of them somewhat. And for some reason, I walked up to them without even thinking about it. I went, let me take a picture of both of you guys. They looked at me a little bit weird, but they just let it happen. And then I just took out my phone and I took a picture of both of them just standing in front of me like that. But I also feel like they didn't find it that creepy at all. Maybe at first they were a little bit put off by it, but because the way I framed myself, the way in my head I genuinely did not think it was weird at that moment of time, even if it's considered to be quite awkward and cringe and socially inept, if you do weird things but you frame it well, if you have no neediness in your head and you genuinely do not think it's a weird thing, chances are they might think it's weird for like a couple seconds and then completely forget about it because you clearly aren't reflecting that it's weird. And that's why they don't find any untrustworthiness within you, even if it's considered strange. You have to show interest in people, otherwise they won't even consider you as an option. People look for safety and connection. They want to know that you have reciprocated before they've even come up to you. That's how they want to feel, because people hate rejection, and you can be the one who is brave enough, who has enough resilience to face that rejection and show your interest anyway. And if you can do that, that's how you can earn the respect and admiration and become popular and well known. People want to feel safe, so if they go after someone who isn't showing any reciprocation back, that means that they're risking letting other people see that you are kind of above them if they go after you and you don't reciprocate, and they are afraid of that. But if you can get over this fear yourself and show interest to a crap ton of people, detaching from this whole social hierarchical thing where it's like, if you show interest in somebody and they don't like you back, or they don't show interest back, or they don't want to have a conversation with you as much as you want to have a conversation with them, you think that you've kind of lost in the interaction. You think that they are kind of above you, and then you instantly withdraw, right? But that isn't an accurate valuation. If you think that showing your interest in someone puts you beneath them and creates this attention transaction game where if they never gave any attention back but you gave first, means you've kind of lost that transaction and means they are more important than you, then you are fundamentally an insecure person, and you need to work on that, because you are seeking that validation that your love is reciprocated, but you don't need that. Showing your interest first doesn't mean that you are inferior in any way. It doesn't mean it at all. If you really think about it, it really doesn't mean that at all. And if you are consistently showing your interest to everybody who you are genuinely interested in, nobody's going to think you're inferior or below them in any way. They're going to be happy that you're interested in them, because as a secure person, your attention has value, because you value yourself that way, and people can feel that. After a very short period of time when I started taking life seriously, deliberately facing my fears, meditating and journaling every day and doing things I was afraid of, after 3 months I went from somebody who would shake in conversations, who would isolate himself and run out of school every single day to pretend like I had somewhere to go when really I didn't want to risk feeling alone. I started to box with other guys from other classes. Like, I would invite them over to my class and we would do sparring. I started to be well known around guys in my school. Then after that, I started to speak to girls alone for the first time. I went out with 2 girls for dinner, and at that time that was super special to me, and I felt cool as fuck. It's like my first time doing that, making actual female friends. Then I also beatboxed on stage. I performed on stage twice, despite my social anxiety, and I was shaking so bad, but I did it. That amount of change being made in that short period of time is absolutely possible. And I'm telling you, the difference between somebody who has a lot of friends and somebody who doesn't is the willingness to show interest. The resilience towards facing rejection, the resilience towards making mistakes and risking making something cringe, is what makes somebody more popular, is what helps somebody have more friends, gain more respect, attract more girls. That is the difference. If you can get over yourself and start to show interest, start to include yourself, you're not going to face these problems any longer. But of course, as you do that, you want to build up your competence so that your attention has more value. And how you build up your competence is your skills in certain areas, your ability to lead and have conversations, your ability to present yourself and how you carry yourself. All these hint a level of competence because they all reflect some sort of resourcefulness. If you can work on your mental capacity, for example, you have more ability to listen to people, more ability to take in the emotional dump and reach out to them. If you're financially resourceful or you're good at something, then that is resourcefulness in of itself, because it proves your competence in an area, which means you are willing to work hard at something. You're able to sit with yourself and get good at something on your own accord. If you're socially confident and you have social skills and charisma, you're also going to become resourceful because you can help people connect them to each other, and people will rely on you because you're more willing to act on the things that are important with that social confidence. So stop playing this victim mindset that, oh, I have no friends, and all these people, they don't deserve my attention anyway. I'm such a nice guy and nobody gives a shit about that. This world sucks. This world is, people are inherently evil and they don't care about someone who is nice and giving and selfless. Instead of playing that whole victim mindset, the difference between you and the person you want to be right now is the willingness to show interest, is the mental capacity to tolerate rejection, to risk it, the mental health to relax on the insecurity and feel more secure amongst other people, and be willing to have more conversations, show more interest, put yourself out there. And since habitually and through your environment you've become this insecure person that is unwilling to include himself first, you have to build from the ground up, and it will take time, it will take effort, but that's okay. It is worth it because relationships are incredibly important to you. Let's not lie to ourselves here. This is so important to you and this is so incredibly worth it, and you know it. So let's go after what we find important. Let's start showing interest. We can start small, build up your social resilience. And if you can't really find anybody right now and you feel lonely and you want the community to help you, my free community is down in the description below. Show your interest, work on your mental health, work on your mental capacity, become a more resourceful and competent human being, and all the respect, all the admiration, all the love, all the relationships you want, all the stories you desire, all the events you are waiting to happen to you, all the times you want to be included but you don't know how to express it, they're all behind that wall of developing yourself into that person you want to be. And just by building the resilience to be able to show interest to anyone you genuinely find interest in will change your life in such a beautiful way, and it will change it so significantly. The opportunities you have will be 100 times you have now just because you are willing to show interest. It's a beautiful skill. It is everything you're looking for right now. You got this. I love you. It's a better world.